The 21 Lessons of Merlyn by Douglas Monroe. Chapter 1. A Boy to Magic Born. Young Arthur looked down into the sea. From his perch high upon the grassy crags of Tintagel, he could watch the ocean waves breaking back and forth over the sharp borderline of rocks below. Arthur was forever watching things, full of wonder at the world around him. Sitting high atop the bluffs, he would study how the tide changed colour with the sun, or how the seagulls danced through the windy clouds far above his head. All these things Arthur drank in, always thirsty for something new or fantastic. Morning Mass had ended, and the brothers of St. Brican were silently attending to their early chores. Being just 8 years of age, Arthur's duties were small. 5 times each day, at the sound of the church bell, he would squeeze into an abbey robe and take his place as altar boy beside the abbot. In reality, Arthur found nothing but boredom in performing this task, except when the sombre duty was lightened by exchanging funny faces or odd grimaces with his friend Iltud behind the backs of the attending brethren. Seldom were they ever caught at this heresy, although it only heightened their glee on the occasion that they were. Then, after the altar robes had been neatly replaced on their pegs, Arthur was free again for a while to roam the fields in search of adventure, and on that day he was not going to be disappointed. Arthur set off down the well-worn path to the orchards. As usual, he wished that Iltud had been able to come with him, but being 2 years his elder, the brethren kept him busy with schooling in letters and numbers. It seemed that Iltud was never free. It was early summer, and the swarms of bees circled around blooming apple trees as one small boy kicked along a dusty road toward the woods. Arthur loved the flowers of summer, and he would make a game of collecting as many as he could, as many different colours as he could find. The reds, blues and yellows were always somewhere close by. But the apple tree pink, which filled the trees that day, was a special and rare prize for him. Later on, he would return to the monastery and present his collection to Brother Victor for inspection, after which he would receive the same old "That's nice, bear cub," and his hard-wrought treasures would again be left to wither and die. This usually made Arthur sad, but on that day sadness was just not in the air. As he listened to the sound of the sea in the distance and the gull cries further on down the path, his most secret desire began to surface within him once again. More than anything, Arthur wanted to discover a way down the steep slopes to the unexplored shore below. The boy had always wondered exactly what lay below on those sandy grounds, where the land battled endlessly against the sea with such bravery. It seemed that there must be some kind of treasure down there for the water to attack the land so violently every day without cease. From time to time, men did journey down to walk along to Tintagel's shoreline, an event that Arthur never missed. But whenever he had begged to go, there was always the same old, "Perhaps when you're older and bigger." Arthur was impatient and tired of waiting to grow older and bigger. But the fact was that, try as he might, no passage down the slopes, save the guarded bridge, was to be found. Arthur also loved the small woods which grew at the very edge of the settlement. Cool and green, he would spend most of the long summer afternoons within its depth. And since that particular day was fast becoming hot, Arthur wound his way through the trees to a small spring where he sat on a mossy rock and began rolling up his trousers to wade in the water. Suddenly, he spotted something so strange that he froze in position. There, about 10 yards downstream, was a huge black bird, perched calmly on a neighbouring rock and eyeing the boy intently. Never had Arthur seen such a creature on Tintagel. The bird drank deeply from the stream and then began to make an unusual series of clicking sounds before flying off finally to a nearby tree branch some 100 feet away. Only a single pitch-black feather remained, spiralling downwards in the breeze. Pulling himself slowly into an upright position, Arthur found the feather and tucked it away into one of his pockets. Glancing about to locate the mysterious visitor, he heard a shrill burst of laughter echoing from a large pine tree straight ahead. Quickly, Arthur spun around just in time to catch the black flurry of movement settle into a mighty oak further on down the path. "A bird that laughs!" he shrilled in delight, while scrambling back onto the path and running with all his might towards the oak, thinking to himself over and over, "Come on, be there! Please still be there!" The bird was there, but flew again to another tree still further down the path. This game of cat and mouse continued for a good while, until Arthur could run no longer and fell gasping onto a mound of bluegrass nearby. There he lay, looking into the sky, until his eyes happened upon a hawthorn bush across the field, where sat the bird, cackling quietly to himself. Rising up on all fours, Arthur stalked noiselessly toward the bush, as he had seen cats do. And this time, to his surprise, the bird made no sign of flying away. So close that he reached out and brushed his fingers across the bird's silky feathers. The bird bowed low so that its neck could be scratched before gliding off over the daisy-covered field and into a small clearing amongst the grove of ancient oaks. With renewed interest in the game, Arthur ran quickly to the clearing where, for a second time that day, he stopped dead in his tracks. The giant bird was there all right, perched on the shoulder of a tall man dressed in blue clothing, leaning against a tree and smoking a long pipe. Seldom had Arthur seen outsiders on Tintagel, and never anyone wandering unescorted through the woods. The man did not move, but held the boy long in his gaze as the bird paced to and fro across his shoulders. "Come here, little friend," he said at length between puffs, "and do not be afraid of me. I have travelled a long distance to meet with you, and I bring with me 1,000 mysteries." The man's voice was full of kindness and dispelled at once any fear that might have been in Arthur's mind. He sat down under a tree and began to put away his pipe as the boy approached. "My name is Arthur." "Yes, I know," responded the man with a smile, "and men often call me Merlyn of Iona, since I come from that magical island far to the north." Arthur's eyes widened a bit. "What about the black bird on your shoulder?" he asked, taking a seat in the silky grass beside the stranger. "Does it belong to you?" "Why, no," the man retorted with a laugh, "for it might well be that my crafty friend here owns me." With that, the bird flew into a nearby stump and began to preen his feathers in the sun. "Why, are you fond of him?" "Very much," Arthur exclaimed, "for never have I seen such a magnificent bird. Does he bear a name?" "He does indeed," said Merlyn, "and an ancient and powerful name at that. He is called Solomon the Wise, and travels sometimes with me, when my mission is important enough, that is," he added with emphasis in Arthur's direction. The boy studied the man carefully for a moment. "What brought you so far to see me?" he finally asked, staring over at the long wooden box which Merlyn carried strapped to his back. "Do you bring me some gift?" he tacked on, not bothering to conceal the rather selfish interest in his voice. "Young man, I bring you many gifts," Merlyn said flatly, "but they are unlike any which you have received before. First of all, I am here to offer you the gift of friendship, and secondly—" His words broke off slowly as he reached into his pocket and pulled out something held tightly in his hand. Merlyn raised his fist into the air and grinned as the boy's eyes became wide as saucers. "Young man, I bring you many gifts," Merlyn stated flatly, "but they are unlike any which you have received before. First of all, I'm here to offer you the gift of friendship, and secondly—" His words broke off slowly as he reached into his pocket and pulled out something held tightly in his hand. Merlyn raised his fist into the air and grinned as the boy's eyes became wide as saucers. "Here I have something that you might like well, but to get it you must earn it. Just guess for me what I hold in this hand, and it's yours." Arthur was silent for a moment, both puzzled and intrigued at this strange game. "How can I possibly guess, Lord Merlyn, when you have given me no—" He stopped when he noticed the man looking at him with great intensity. "A blue stone, I think," Arthur answered timidly, returning the gaze, but I'm probably wrong. A broad smile beamed across Merlyn's face, a smile of both pleasure and relief. Thank the gods, he intoned loudly, as Solomon flew over to join them once more. The fist opened, and sure enough, there lay a small bluish pebble. In the future, you must learn to have more faith, he added, noting the twin look of surprise and disappointment on Arthur's face at the apparent insignificance of his gift. I thank you, Lord Merlyn, said the boy in a reserved tone as he reached out his hand in acceptance, but the overtones of insincerity could not be missed. I believe that you truly underestimate the worth of this present, said Merlyn, for it is a magical thing capable of many wonders. Do not judge merit by size or shape, but instead by what it represents. Arthur appeared confused. I could not help but notice the cross symbol which you wear around your neck, young man. Can you tell me why you wear it? The boy thought for a moment. Because I am told that this sign will tell others that I follow in the way of Christ. But does it carry any power within itself? Merlyn insisted in response. Slowly Arthur nodded no. Well then, he continued, might not this blue pebble also be a symbol of importance to some other kind of being? Remember this, boy, that our world is home to more creatures than you have seen from these tiny fields and skies. At once Arthur perked up. But I know the lairs and nests of all the animals in these woods, he said proudly. I'm certain that you do, replied Merlyn with a smile, but some kinds of beings cannot be seen even with your sharp eyes. Nor can they be stalked or hunted by common man. To find them, you must learn to see beyond your physical world, into the other world realms where they dwell. You must learn to see not only with your eyes, but with your spirit as well, for this is my way, the way of the Druids. Then, for the first time since their meeting, a cloud of fear drifted through Arthur's mind. Many were the dreadful tales of druid folk and devils which he had overheard spoken in whispered voices late at night by his brothers. But they seemed so unlike the wondrous world and words of Merlyn that the fear soon dissolved into nothingness. The blue stone will make it possible for you to learn such things as I have spoken, the man continued. The blue stone is a key, a tool to use when you desire to gain knowledge not of this world. But how? Asked Arthur. A pebble is such a common thing. Is not a stone merely a stone? Merlyn took out his pipe again and began to fill it with birch leaves from a nearby tree. Ah, my young friend, you have much to learn, said the druid. A chip of flint suddenly brought the pipe to life, and you remind me so of your father. Arthur sat bolt upright. You knew my father? He cried in astonishment. You must tell me of him, please. The brothers here told me that both my parents were unknown. Suddenly realizing that he had spoken without thought, Merlyn made a quick attempt to evade the subject. There will be future times to speak of many things, he said curtly, but now my time here is past. I have come to teach you a new way of thinking in preparation I have come to teach you a new way of thinking in preparation for the day when your thoughts will mean much to many. Think upon the words that have passed between us this day, and when you are ready, return to this old oak tree and let fall your blue stone over the edge. Only then will I come. So, you see, if your common pebble has the power to summon me by its presence below, is it not then a magical thing after all? But where will you go? Asked Arthur, too concerned at losing a friend to bother with the magical part. If you return with me, my brothers will surely feast you well and give you a place to sleep in my quarters. Please come. Thank you, my boy, Merlyn said warmly, but that would be impossible. I am afraid that your keepers would not feel any too comfortable with me around, for I am of the old religion, and many have not yet learned what we Druids have long known, that the one God has many faces. Arthur did not pretend to understand these words, but did sense something in them nonetheless. But I will see you again, he pressed. Merlyn paused, then bent down face to face with Arthur. Never doubt that you will, little one, for our friendship has been ordained by the stars of destiny since the world emerged from Annwn. Never doubt it. I won't, said Arthur, but... With this the druid walked quickly towards the edge of the bluff and disappeared behind the oak. Arthur ran to the tree and walked around it many times in amazement. He wondered if there really might be a secret passage to the shore after all, but could still find none. With a long burst of laughter, the raven Solomon flew from his perch and disappeared next over the edge. At that very moment Arthur heard clear tones of the church bell ringing across the meadows. He was already late for afternoon mass. As if caught between two worlds, he raced back down the dusty path and into the chapel. But never once during that long service was his mind really there. As if his inner self had somehow been changed by Merlyn's visit, awakened by some ancient magic. That night the moon shone brightly through the window as Arthur lay awake, lost in thought. Clutched tightly in his hand was Merlyn's small gift, while on the wall over his bed was tacked the single black feather. These two relics were of great importance to Arthur, for they alone told him with any certainty that his special day had been more than just a dream, more than just the longings of one small boy. But he would know for sure soon enough. At the first sign of daybreak, he would return to that oak and throw his stone. Then he would know for sure that Merlyn had spoken the truth. Please, God, Arthur whispered into the dark, please let it be so. Then, at last, he fell into a deep sleep, dreaming of stones and druids and great black birds in the sky, but most of all dreaming of the words that Merlyn had spoken from within a dream of his own. And you remind me so of your father.